up the hands. And again! And another!
Is Max Holloway going to get one of those classic knockouts? Or is Charles Oliveira going to do what he does best? Let's get right into the main event and figure it out. Alright, so per usual, we're going to start with the main event. We're going to start with Charles Oliveira. Oliveira started his career off as a pro in 2008. He actually started his career off fighting in multiple Grand Prix style tournaments. He won them both, and he was signed to the UFC in 2010. He won his UFC debut over Darren Elkins by submission in the first round. Later on in his career, he fought for the vacant, I'd say the peak of his career, he fought for the vacant lightweight belt against Michael Chandler, won that fight, I believe, in the second round by knockout. And later on that year, in 2021, he defended that belt against Dustin Poirier. The following year, in 2022, he was actually stripped of the title because he missed weight for his title fight against Justin Gaethje, who was the interim champion at the time. That was the first time that ever happened in UFC history, a champion being stripped for missing weight. He went on to win that fight, even though he wasn't eligible to win the belt for missing weight. Gaethje was the only one eligible to win the belt. And honestly, it's funny when you look back at people's careers, it's kind of like watching a movie again, because I remember when that happened. I want to say that's when the phrase, the division has a champion and the champion's Charles Oliveira, I want to say that's when that was phrased. So it's kind of cool to like look back on that and remember that. Moving on, later that year in 2022, he fought Islam Makhachev for the vacant title, and he lost by submission in the second round. He was booked for a rematch the following year, and he had to withdraw due to injury. He defeated Michael Chandler in a rematch in 2024 and faced Ilia Topuria in June of last year and lost by first round knockout. So he's 3-2 in his last 5. He's ranked number 3, so he's still firmly in the title picture. So offensively speaking, he lands just over 3 significant strikes a minute. And he's 54% accurate with those strikes. He's an extremely diverse striker. He'll hit you at all 3 levels. He has good forward pressure. He keeps a nice tight high guard. He has really strong leg kicks. And he uses a good teep kick as well. You know, he's a better kicker, in my opinion, than he is a puncher. You'll see him throw, if he's using a good game plan this Saturday, you'll see him throw a lot of kicks, mainly to Max Holloway's legs. Defensively speaking, he absorbs just over 3 significant strikes a minute, so he's absorbing just as much as he's landing. And 49% defensive striking rate, so that's telling me he's getting hit with every other punch. And when you watch him fight, you can really see that. Like I said, he keeps a tight high guard, but people split it with the jab quite often. He's there to be hit, and he has a lot of scar tissue built up, and he bleeds really easy. I mean, if he's getting caught clean, I mean, he was bleeding. I was watching tape. He was bleeding a minute or 2 into fights numerous times. So he's there to be dropped, but he also has that weapon in his back pocket, that grappling, to where people don't follow him to the ground. So when we talk about his grappling, I would categorize it as elite. I would say Charles Oliveira is a very elite grappler, landing 2.2 takedowns per 15 minutes. Only at a 40% accuracy rate, though. And you can kind of tell when you watch him fight, he's not getting people to the ground on his terms. Usually what's happening is people are shooting in, and he's instantly digging in for that guillotine or pulling guard and falling right back. He's had the luxury of, I want to say, Arman Tsarukyan shot in for takedowns on him. His last fight, Gamrot, that's how he ended up getting that rear naked choke, was he shot in numerous times in the first and second round, which I think was a terrible game plan from Gamrot. But moving on, staying on Oliveira, he latches onto submissions extremely quick. I mean, you'll see here he has Gamrot in this position a minute into the fight. So, I mean, if you're not careful, he makes things very sticky very fast. When he's in the top position, he uses extremely strong downward pressure, and he uses his head as a nice fulcrum, like a leverage point. But he also is there to be reversed. So defensively speaking, He defends 54% of the takedowns that his opponents attempt on him. He's lost four fights by submission. He'll force a clinch situation when he's in danger on the feet. But like I said before, he has okay trips, he has okay throws, but he's not the best wrestler. Phenomenal grappler, like I've said in videos past. Phenomenal grappler, not the best wrestler. He'll play the jiu-jitsu game off his back. He has 13 submission wins in the UFC and 22 submission wins overall. So he has no problem, once he's on his back fishing for those submissions. But the thing I do like about Charles is he may lay there for a minute or so and fish, but if it's not there, he's getting feet on hips, he's pushing away, he's trying to get back to his feet. So gas tank wise, Charles has pretty good cardio. He's gone 5 rounds, I want to say once or twice in the UFC. But you'll see Charles fade a little bit if he's stuck striking for extended periods of time. And that's common for most grapplers. He's fine and he can survive if he's able to get the back, hang out on the back, or just hang out on his back in a defensive position. Then he's usually okay. But the more damage he takes, the more he fades. He's not someone who accepts damage very well and builds off of it. He's someone who crumbles because of it. The way for Charles to win this fight is he's got to attack Max's legs. Max has very good movement. Good way to stop that movement is leg kicks. Charles has phenomenal kicks. They're very sharp, they're very fast, and they're very accurate. So I would love to see him invest in leg kicks early when fighting Max. Also, stay on the grappling. Don't let Max get into any kind of rhythm. Don't let it happen. Stay on the grappling. Stay on the body like against the cage. Make it just a grimy, dirty fight. Don't try to play the clean, technical striking game with Max. Charles loses this fight by losing minutes on the feet. By fighting with his heart instead of his brain, like we've seen Charles do numerous times, and just try to win a standing battle with Max at distance. Which I don't feel like is going to happen. If he wants to get in close, if he wants to make it dirty in that close range striking, that's fine. He can do that. Don't stand at distance and strike with Max. One thing I do love overall about Oliveira's career is he's shown to learn how to be resilient, to learn how to not quit, if that makes sense. Early on in his career, he was known as a quitter, known as someone who could give up. You can even look back to their first fight that they had. He took one body shot, grabbed at his neck, and fell to the ground and said he was injured. He may have had an injury, but that was Oliveira's MO back then. Not anymore. You got to get that guy out of there. So that's something that I do love seeing recently in the past 5 to 6 years watching Oliveira's fights. On to Max Blessed Holloway. So Max started off as a pro in 2010. Started off his career 4-0 in the X1 promotion out of Hawaii. Made his UFC debut in 2012 against Dustin Poirier, and he lost that fight by submission, and that is his only submission loss in his career. He won the interim belt against Anthony Pettis in 2016, then unified that belt by beating Jose Aldo in 2017. Between 2014 and 2019, he went on a streak of winning 14 of 15 fights, had 4 title defenses, and his only loss was to Dustin Poirier, and that was up a weight class. Lost his belt to Alexander Volkanovski, as we all know, in 2019, and then he lost his next 2 rematches to Alexander Volkanovski to make him 0-3 in that trilogy against Volk. So he's 4-1 in his last 5 fights. He is the current BMF champion, and he is now fighting at lightweight. So Max has historic striking, as we all know. He lands 7.2 significant strikes a minute, which I want to say is in the top number 1 in the UFC. 48% accurate with those strikes, so he's landing every other punch that he throws. He has one of the best jabs in the UFC, and he doesn't just jab to the face. He throws it well to the body, and not just a jab. He throws a nice straight to the body as well. He primarily uses his hands, but later on in his career, he's worked in a really good spinning back kick. I want to say he broke Justin Gaethje's nose with it in the first round of their fight. He caught Yair with it a couple times. He has a good front kick, a good stomping stomping style kick to the knee to throw people's rhythm off. So he's implemented his legs very well in the striking realm. He has a really good counter straight. So while his opponents are crashing the pocket, I noticed mainly, not really off of them throwing, but as they're stepping in, he's really good at just laying it right on them. He pivots very well after he throws his combinations to keep himself safe from counters as well. So defensively speaking, Max absorbs 4.74 significant strikes a minute, and a lot of that's due to the way he holds his hands. He has a very like wide-eyed style, hands low, kind of showing you his head to get you to throw to open up. That's, so he's there to be hit. Doesn't mind being in a back and forth brawl. But his defensive rate is sitting at almost 60%. So it's 59%, and a lot of that's because of his movement. He circles off well, like I just mentioned. The way he holds his hands, it helps him keep his punches fluid, and it helps him keep that ability to throw those punches late into fights. But it also leaves his chin exposed. And that's one of the main things I don't like about Max's striking style. Another thing I don't like about it is he's very, very heavy on that lead leg. Like we talked about Oliveira, he has extremely heavy leg kicks. Max likes to lean in forward, kind of bait you a little bit, show you his head. That's not going to be smart in this fight. He's extremely susceptible to leg kicks. Like we talked about, that chin comes up a lot of the times in flurries. And as we saw in the Ilia Topuria fight, it cost him, right? So that's where I feel he needs to really tighten up and be careful fighting someone like Charles, because Charles throws hard. Max throws with volume, and Charles throws with intent. So I'd say, overall, Max is a world-class striker, world-class volume, world-class movement, but he's still there to be hit. So not much to speak of when it comes to Max grappling offensively. He attempts a quarter of a takedown per 15 minutes, so basically nothing at all. His accuracy with it is 53%, but he hasn't landed a takedown in the last 5 years. The last time he landed a takedown, I want to say was, and this is just off memory, I haven't taped this, Yair. Yair is when he felt threatened, and I feel that's the only time Max may go to the ground is when he feels extremely threatened on the feet, which isn't often. Those kicks from Yair is something that Charles can pay attention to when fighting Max. Defensively speaking, Max has an 83% takedown defense rate. He'll occasionally concede takedowns, but he shows an urgency to get back up. Fights the hands very well, gets his hips away. Like we've talked about in previous videos, he knows the process of grappling very, very well. He doesn't like to use it offensively, but defensively he uses it to keep the fight in his world. The thing about this matchup is I don't think he's ever fought a grappler at the level and the pedigree of Oliveira. And the last, I'd say, true grappler that he fought was Ortega. That was way back in 2018. So we're going to see. I do think Max is much physically stronger at 155, which will help him. But we're going to see how he holds up in the grappling department against someone who is an elite grappler. We all know about Max's cardio. It's world class. He's able to maintain that pace late in the fights. He's had 10 full 5-round fights in the UFC. His significant strikes landed per minute, that rate shows you that he's able to keep it late into fights. I do feel the main thing about his gas tank now is just that move up to lightweight. I think later on in his career, he was just getting depleted. And I feel his fight against Ilia showed that. Ilia really laid it on him, and I don't think that's because Max wasn't able to hang with him. He was outstriking him and doing really well, specifically in the first 2 rounds. But you saw, once he started catching those few shots, it started draining him. And I don't think you haven't seen that. You didn't see that in the Poirier fight and didn't see that in the Gaethje fight. So I feel he needs to stay at lightweight for the sake of his career and for the sake of his gas tank. I say Max wins this fight by keeping it standing, keeping that jab pumped out there, staying active, and moving his feet. I feel the moment he plants his feet, that's when Oliveira can take advantage. And also attack at all levels. Don't just headhunt. You watch Max in the past, I mean, you'll see a lot of the numbers, they'll flash up on the screen. Into the second, midway into the second round, he's landed 40 head strikes and only 2 or 3 to the body. You got to mix it up a little bit against Oliveira. So he will drop his hands a little bit. How Max loses this fight is by getting controlled early. Like I showed you that little clip earlier of him with Gamrot. That was a minute into the fight. So like I said, Oliveira can get things in his world very quick. A minute into the fight, he had Arman almost submitted with a guillotine. Had to slip out of his shorts to get out of it. So he can get you in a lot of danger extremely quick. So I feel that's one of the ways he can lose this fight is by giving up something quickly while they're dry. And losing minutes just in the grappling department in general. Oliveira kind of making it dirty, dragging him around, not letting him get his volume going in between those grappling exchanges, just staying on that grappling, keeping him there. That's how I feel he loses this fight, by just accepting grappling exchanges against the cage. So matching these two up side by side, you have an elite volume striker versus an elite grappler and I would describe Charles Oliveira as a damaging intent striker, where Max has the volume. So what it's going to be interesting to see is, can Charles get the fight into his world? Or does Charles even want to get the fight into his world? Because if you ask me, I don't think that he does. I think what's going to happen in this fight is Charles is going to get touched a few times by Max, and he's going to think that he can handle the power, and he's going to start throwing big, and he's going to start getting countered. I don't believe Charles will attempt to get this fight to the ground as often as he should. The numbers show that Max is going to land roughly 8 significant strikes a minute, and Charles is getting hit every other punch. So I'm trusting those numbers in this matchup, and I'm trusting the 155 version of Max. I feel you're going to see a really good version of both of these fighters. They're both coming off of really, really impressive performances. It's for the BMF belt. It's a lot of pride on the line. I mean, you can't get Max versus Charles. You can't get any more. You cannot get any more than this in the main event. Ultimately, I'm going with Max. I feel Max's volume is too much. It's going to frustrate Charles, and Charles is just going to fall into Max's game. Max blessed Holloway to retain the BMF belt Saturday night. Now let's move on to the co-main event. We got Caio Borralho versus Reinier de Ritter. We're going to start with Borralho. Pro debut in 2014. He only had one amateur fight before turning pro. Started off his career 8-1-1, and that earned him a appearance on Dana White's Contender Series in 2021, where he actually had 2 fights to earn a contract. He did earn a contract his second fight, which was at light heavyweight, and that's something to keep in mind since this fight is at middleweight. He won that fight by knockout against Jesse Murray. I'd say his signature win so far is over Jared Cannonier, a fight where he absorbed, I want to say, over 80 significant strikes from Cannonier. So he took some shots, and it was definitely a war. But that was a fight night main event way back in 2024. He was unbeaten in 18 consecutive fights before his last fight against Imanov. He's 1-4 in his last 5. One thing I don't like about looking back at his record is he's only had 5 fights in the past 3 years. So he's out of the Fighting Nerds. I want to say he's a co-owner of the Fighting Nerds. Him and one of his coaches helped start that team. So the Fighting Nerds, if you haven't heard about it, they're kind of the new kids on the block. They wear those little glasses at the end of every fight when they win, and they're a really smart camp. They're a really smart team. So it's interesting to see what they do from fight to fight, because it's never usually the same for all of their fighters. So moving on to end what he does, offensively speaking, he lands 3.4 significant strikes a minute. A lot of that comes from out of his bladed stance. He has kind of a karate stance, and that's interesting because he has a Muay Thai black belt. So he doesn't really have a Muay Thai stance. He has more of a karate-based stance. So it's interesting. He lands at a 56% clip. He has a really good jab, really good 1-2 combo, which is a jab and then a straight right behind it. Thing I found odd about watching his tape is he fights out of southpaw, which is right hand forward, left hand back, right foot forward, left foot back. But he seems like he's right hand dominant, which is it causes a little bit of an imbalance because you primarily want your strong hand in the back because that's your power, and then you load up with your power. So when you watch him fight, he paws a lot with his front hand. He does a lot of hand fighting, and he throws a lot of just lead hand attacks, which at times it lands, but at times it becomes quite predictable. He has a good, similar to what Max will throw, you'll see a good stomping. A lot of fighters are throwing it now, a good stomping shot to the knee to try to throw people off and disrupt their rhythm. He has this very slow telegraphed winding high kick out of his southpaw stance. He'll switch to orthodox, but then he won't throw his right. He won't throw the backhand. It's his stance and the way he holds his hands. It's and the way what he throws. It's a bit of a puzzle. He makes it look nice, but when you look closely, it's a bit off. But defensively speaking, he only absorbs 2.5 significant strikes a minute, and that's due to his in and out movement. He moves great in and out and laterally. He sees punches very well and he evades punches very well. But he does get hit at a 60% clip. So he doesn't get hit a lot, but he's still getting, when people are throwing, they are landing. He angles off fairly well. At times he does move straight back, but he does angle off to make sure he's getting his back off the cage to take the center of the octagon. I said he'll change his game plan from fight to fight. So against Cannonier, you saw him keeping his left hand right up by his head the entire fight. Kind of similar to that, because he knows Cannonier has a strong power shot. He didn't want anything to do with that. When you saw him fight Paul Craig, he didn't go to the ground with him at all. Anytime there was any situation where Paul Craig was trying to pull guard or was a grappling exchange, he was disengaging and ripping away. As with other fights, I've seen him take advantage in top positions. So he knows how to game plan from opponent to opponent very well in the striking and the grappling realm. So onto his grappling. Offensively speaking, he does land just over a takedown per 15 minutes, and he lands them at right around a 50% clip. And you see that when he fights, he's pretty strong in like the over-under pummel position. He knows what he's doing in the grappling realm. I mean, it's limited how much he grapples offensively, but he will, whenever he's in trouble, he'll grab a hold of you, he'll drive you up to the cage. You know what I mean? Just to kind of break your rhythm, kill a little bit of clock, get a little bit of control time. When he does get into the top position, though, he's very strong. He knows how to hold the position very well. And he has extremely heavy ground and pound when given the opportunity. You can look back at his tape, and it's very well documented. Now he has a 76% defensive takedown rate, and he's only been taken down 3 times in his last 10 UFC fights. So I'll say that again. 3 times in his last 10 UFC fights he's been taken down, so that's something to note in this fight. He frames very well with his hands and forearms, and he has a good sprawl. And that's something I like. I like people, when they're defending takedowns, who use their arms and hands first. They don't accept someone getting to their legs and then worry about trying to get up. No, they don't even let him get there. They use that first line of defense. And that's something that he does well. He'll give up takedowns, but he's trying to get right back up. He's not trying to play the jiu-jitsu game off his back. He likes to stand and he likes to throw his hands. That's where he prefers the fight to be at. So cardio-wise, Borralho has 3 5-round fights that have gone the distance. He fights at a nice controlled pace. He has a light bounce in and out, but it's not too over the top. He doesn't burn too much energy doing it. Throws his strikes efficiently. He's not loading up and winding huge shots. The only shot I don't like he throws is that left high kick out of southpaw. That one seems like it takes a bit of energy, but outside of that, everything he throws is very, very, very efficient. So how does Borralho win this fight? Keeping it on the feet, keep moving. Keep circling. Avoid long grappling exchanges. Like I mentioned, he's good at disengaging. He's going to need to do a lot of that in this upcoming fight. How does he lose this fight? lose minutes by getting pinned against the cage. At times, in fights I've seen in the past, he will lose minutes just kind of hanging out against the cage, catching his breath. Avoid taking damage upon grappling entries from your opponent. That's something that he's known for. So now let's switch over to Reinier de Ridder. This guy is decorated, so buckle up here. Made his pro debut in 2013, just like his opponent after one amateur fight, went pro right away. Won 2 championship belts in 2 separate promotions in the year of 2017, one in the 360 championship fight promotion and one in the HIT fighting championship promotion. He debuted with 1 championship in 2019. He had 11 fights in his run with the promotion between 2019 and 2024. Over that time span, he won 4 of 6 title fights in middleweight and light heavyweight, and he defended his light heavyweight belt 2 times. But before coming to the UFC, he had a win over Magomurad Kasayev in the UAE promotion in June of 2024. Later on that year, made his UFC debut, defeated Gerald Meerschaert. He's 4-1 in his last 5, and his notable wins was a submission win over Kevin Holland, a TKO win with a nice body shot over Bo Nickel while he was riding high, and a decision win over Robert Whittaker. So 3 wins, 3 different ways, all of notable opponents. I mean, that's very, very respectable from someone coming right into the UFC. Let's get into how RDR uses his hands. I would describe his striking as a little bit clunky and robotic. Offensively, he's only landing just over 2 significant strikes a minute at a 53% clip. So he does land, but he just does not land often. He paused that lead hand out to find range, similar to his opponent, though you'll be seeing a lot of lead hand fighting this week. He has a nice sharp jab once he starts finding that rhythm. Strong leg kicks, extremely strong leg kicks. And as I talked about a moment ago, he has not just leg kicks, but a good step in knee. He throws it. He's really accurate with it. I mean, every fight that I watched, he's landing this knee to the body, and it buckles people. Whether he finishes the fight with it against like he did against Bo, or he just wears you down with it like he did against Whittaker. That knee to the body, it's I would call it a signature weapon. It's his signature weapon. It's very impressive. He mainly strikes to set up what his game is, which is on the ground. But he'll engage in the striking realm for a long periods of time, longer than he should, in my opinion. And a lot of the times when he's striking, he'll start. He doesn't have great striking technique with his hands, so he'll start flailing these punches, and they're just not coming in sharp, and they're very telegraphed. He's there to be countered. Defensively, he's only absorbing a little over 2 significant strikes a minute, and that's in the UFC. Limited fights in the UFC, but what we talked about in weeks past, he's fought consistently throughout his whole career, and he's kept people on the ground, and that's why that number is so low. But he's not that sturdy of of an athlete. He's not how can I put this? He's just unbalanced. Just to keep it polite. He's not a balanced striker. He keeps a low guard, his chin's high. He has very little head movement. And he doesn't take punches well. He doesn't take damage well in general. He turns, he flinches away from action whenever he's getting hit. He just doesn't like being in a back and forth dogfight at all. So on to what he does well, which is the grappling. I would describe it as world class. He lands almost 3 takedowns per 15 minutes, which is very impressive. So almost a takedown a round. And he's averaging at least a submission attempt every 15 minutes. So once this fight gets to the ground, he's looking for something. He has 14 career wins by submission. And I would not describe him as a strong grappler, but he's very slick. He can be had in certain situations on the ground. But he's crafty, and he can latch onto something, and he's been grappling for a very, very long time. So he does a good job of getting a hold of you and then just getting stuck to you. Like he gets stuck on you like glue. He has extremely good back takes. At times he can slip off and get reversed, but he's an intelligent grappler. He implements his grappling different from fight to fight. He's not just trying to go for one type of takedown. He'll go for a body lock. He'll go for a single. He'll mix it up depending on who he's fighting. He has an extremely wide variety of submission attacks. Extremely wide variety of submission attacks. So you never know. I want to say it was his last fight against Brendan Allen. He had, I want to say it was a reverse triangle locked in toward the end of the first round, and it looked insane. So I mean, the guy he's extremely talented when it comes to his submission game. So defensively speaking, he has a 50% takedown defense rate. He's only been taken down twice in the UFC. As we talked about, awesome submission game, so he'll fish for those submissions off his back. He has no problem laying on his back for an entire round looking for submissions. He's good in scrambles, but seen him reversed in numerous fights. He looks for sweeps instead of building to his feet properly, instead of framing off and trying to get to his feet. He's looking to reverse your back, and just not the best technique in my opinion at the UFC level. So speaking about his cardio, I would say it's a bit in question. He's even spoke to how hard these weight cuts have been over the past year. I mean, he's had, 5 weight cuts in the last 11 months. That's a lot. That's a lot. We don't know. We honestly, at this, we do not know where Reynier's cardio's at. I mean, he's only gone 5 rounds one time in his last 10 fights and twice in his entire career. So it's a question mark. Luckily, this fight's only 3 rounds. So we're not, I don't think it's going to be tested too much. But he's fading, I mean, even into the second round of the Brendan Allen fight, he was starting to fade. So I would like to see what adjustments he's made only in 4 months. I mean, he quit on the stool in the 4th round on October 18th. So I'm wondering, I want to see him come out here. I want to see him respond, because that's what I'm expecting. I mean, a guy stops in the 4th round and now he's coming back 3-4 months later. I would expect he's hungry and he's motivated. So I think we're going to see a really a good version of Reinier this week. I would have a hard time believing we won't. So I'd say Reinier's win condition in this fight is to just force constant grappling exchanges. Keep Borralho against that cage. He'll hang out there for times and just burn up clock to take a breather. Take advantage of that. Do damage on those entries like you always do. Reinier's very good at stepping in with knees as he's going to clinch you up. It drains the life out of people. I've seen it. Some people have good poker, but Robert Whittaker had a great poker face. But man, he was eating those knees, and it did not feel good. So that's how he wins this fight. Force the grappling exchanges. Keep throwing those knees to the body. How he loses this fight. Staying in those striking exchanges for too long, like we've talked about. Borralho is up over 3 significant strikes a minute. And yeah, he's not getting hit a lot he's not getting hit at a high rate, but when he's getting hit, he's getting hit clean. He's getting caught clean. So I would not like to see Reinier on his feet for extended periods of time. And I would say another way is if he's just met with too much resistance in the grappling department. Borralho does have a judo background. Borralho does have a Brazilian jiu-jitsu background. So is that going to be too much for Reinier? So do want to take note here that RDR was dropped by Robert Whittaker, who was a former 170-pounder in the 3rd round of their fight. That was with an overhand right. And in numerous fights, Reinier's tried to use his opponent's gloves to survive or gain a better position. He did it against Whittaker, and he did it against Allen. And it's clear as day in both fights that he was doing it. And so I don't know what to say about that, but I'm just going to leave that there. So matching these two up side by side, you have a world-class grappler and submission artist versus someone who has credentials in those worlds, but who chooses to keep it on the feet. Borralho is a credentialed jiu-jitsu black belt. He's a black belt in judo, and he's a black belt in Muay Thai. The funny thing about that is I hardly see any of those things when I watch him fight. I see someone standing in more of a bladed karate stance and really just throwing lead hand jabs, body and leg kicks. So is Reinier able to put enough pressure, get it to where his world is, or is Borralho going to be able to disengage the way that he does and keep it on the feet? Ultimately, in this fight, I'm going with Borralho. I think this fight is going to look a lot like the Paul Craig fight. I feel Reinier didn't give himself enough time to let his body recover from these weight cuts. I feel Caio's the younger, more athletic, and just better game planned fighter. I think you're going to see Caio come out here, touch and move, stay on the feet, and maybe even finish Reinier late if he's got the opportunity. Unfortunately, I think we're going to start seeing Reinier go on the decline. So my pick for the co-main event is Caio Borralho. All right, let's run through these quick picks. Starting the card off on the prelims, we got Luke Fernandez versus Rodolfo Bellato. I'm taking Luke Fernandez. Next, we have Li Jinliang versus Gaston Bellatos. I'm taking Li Jinliang. Dr. Nurganzayev versus Rafael Tobias. I'm taking Rafael Tobias. Suman Darji versus Jesus Aguilar. I'm taking Suman Darji. Turman Bekal versus Cody Durden. I'm taking Turman Bekal. Albert Montez versus Ricky Turcos. I'm going Alberto Montez. Cody Brundage versus Dante Johnson. Going Dante Johnson. Cody Garbrandt versus Long Zhou. Taking Cody Garbrandt. Bruno Ferreira versus RoboCop Gregory Rodriguez. I'm taking Bruno Ferreira. Michael Johnson versus Drew Dober. I'm going Drew Dober. Raul Rosas Jr. versus Rob Font. Going Raul Rosas Jr. Reinier de Ridder versus Caio Borralho. Going Caio Borralho. Max Holloway versus Charles Oliveira. Going Max Blessed Holloway in the main event. And those are the quick picks. My underdog lock of the week is Bruno Hulk Ferreira to get the win over Gregory RoboCop Rodriguez. Reason being is just the speed. Feel the speed, the power, and just those ghosts from the last fight are going to be too much for RoboCop to overcome. So give me Bruno Ferreira, underdog lock of the week. Now I'm going to give you my four most confident fighters this weekend. First, Luke Fernandez over Rodolfo Bellato. Second, Dante Johnson over Cody Brundage. Third, Raul Rosas Jr. over Rob Font. And fourth, I'm going most confident and underdog lock of the week in the same pick, Bruno Ferreira for the fourth most confident pick. So those are the quick picks. That's the underdog lock of the week. And those are my four most confident picks. So that's going to do it on my take for the main event and co-main event. Max Holloway versus Charles Oliveira in the main event, and the co-main event, Caio Borralho versus Reinier de Ridder. Two really exciting fights. I think just the youth and speed is going to be too much in the co-main event. The youth, speed, and physicality and athleticism overall, I think that's going to show itself in the co-main event. In the main event, I just think Max's volume. Max is just going to be Max. You're going to see what we've always seen. But when you look at all the rest of these other fights, there are plenty of live underdogs. So take a close look this weekend before Saturday starts. There's a lot of people on this card who aren't expected to win, who I think are going to win. So like I said, I got Max Blessed Holloway in the main event, and I got Caio Borralho in the co-main event at the top of the bill. But neither one of those gentlemen are in my most confident picks this weekend. I'll leave it at that. See you next time in round 3.